inhabits the praises of his people. The Lord inhabits the praise of his people. Thank you, Branch County Community Outreach Choir. Got that out. For being with us and praising the Lord with us, as the psalmist says. Someone once said, when you sing, you pray twice. Now, I've heard that John Wesley said this. I heard that John Calvin said this. You know what? I said it. I said this today. He who prays or she who prays sings twice, which is better, I think, than what Mozart said. Sure, singing in the shower is all fun and games until you get shampoo in your mouth. Then it's a soap opera. It's Mozart for you. Now on to a short reflection. Somebody recently told me that they had pulled into Meijer and they found a great parking spot closest to the door. And they said it was a sign that God was with them. I was at a community men's breakfast, prayer breakfast. This is several years ago. And one teary-eyed man I didn't know, he stood up and he asked for prayers for his family because he said his newborn granddaughter didn't make it. I didn't know the details, but I knew what he was talking about. And then just a minute, maybe 2 minutes later, another guy stood up and enthusiastically talked about how he had been healed of some sickness because God intervened. And wasn't it so great, he said. And the whole time, I'm sitting there thinking, well, yeah, but what about the baby who didn't make it? You know, where was God for her? And where was that intervention for her family? Another time, someone said to me that they were in a store and they saw this item that was on sale and it was in their size. And she said, this just shows how good God is. If God can help somebody find something on sale, then why isn't God doing things that seem more important, like preventing earthquakes or sicknesses or accidents? Which begs the question, one that I've been thinking about all week in light of some events that have happened in our church family. It begs the question, when you think about God, or when you hear the word God, what images come to mind? Is it an old man up in the sky, behind a curtain, pulling the levers and pushing the buttons, healing some and finding parking spaces for others? For many, that's their concept of God. God's outside. He's over there. He's up there, somewhere else. And God made the world, and then he stood back, and he just kind of watches it. God is out there. And from time to time comes here. And of course, the problem with this God is you end up having to prove that this God even exists. Because what happens is we experience reality, life. And sometimes it's really, really hard and difficult. And this God up there, who occasionally intervenes, lets us down. But this is contrary to what we've heard in our readings this morning. It's contrary to what St. Paul told the Greek philosophers in Athens. He basically said, God isn't up there, out there, somewhere else, randomly popping his head in our affairs, but God is everywhere, sharing everything with us, in everything with us, the good and the bad, the beauty and the beast, the joy and the grief. God is there, in it, with us, in the very moment. You see, the writers of the Bible, They weren't so much interested in proving that God exists, but rather they wanted to talk about what God is like. You remember the story of Moses in the burning bush? You know, Charlton Heston, shoes off, burning bush. He wanted to know who he was dealing with. So Moses asked God, "What's your name? Who are you? You know, I got to figure you out." And God answered Moses. God said, "I am who I am." And Moses said, "Thanks, that clears it up. I appreciate that." God, no shape, no form. Right from the very beginning, this is the point. God is beyond anything our minds can comprehend. So sometimes we struggle to understand how to have a personal relationship with this kind of God, to love this kind of God. What does that even mean? And how do you do it? I believe that God listens to us and cares and loves and is involved, like Jesus said in our gospel. But the whole relationship idea can be hard to comprehend. So the writers of the Bible used metaphors to talk about God's Spirit among us and in us. Wind and water and light and breath. When I think of God, I hear a song. It's a song that moves me and speaks to me, and it has a melody, has a groove. It has a certain rhythm. And for thousands and thousands of years across continents and cultures, time periods, people have heard this very song, and they have found it captivating. And they want to hear more. Just like me, I want to hear more. Sure, you can deny the music. You can shut off your ears. Or you can get the words wrong. I remember my older brother, I used to sing to his what was the name of that group? The Fifth Dimension. His Fifth Dimension album. For you people younger than 20, those are the vinyl and they're about this big. And I used to sing with the big hit of the album, "This is the dawning of the age of asparagus." I got the words wrong. But the song keeps playing. And it's written deep in our souls. It's written on our hearts, everybody's heart. Jesus came to show us how to live in tune with the melody, in rhythm with the song. Like when he says, "I am the truth and the life and the way." It's not about one religion being better than another religion or a church being better than another church. He came to show us what reality is like in all its harshest points, in all its roughest edges. He came to show us how things really are. Jesus is God who took on flesh and blood, on our sweat and tears. He took it on, and in his compassion, he is telling us this is what God is like. When Jesus showed love and forgiveness and sacrifice, he was saying, this is what God is like. When he celebrated at the wedding, when he wept at his friend's grave, he was saying, this is what God is like. That's who God is, sharing every moment. Like it says in our reading from the book of Acts, in God we live and move and we have our being. God gives us life and breath and all good things because God is generous. So when I'm selfish or I'm stingy, I'm out of tune with the song. Jesus said God is love, unrestrained, unconditional love. So when I see somebody sacrifice themselves for another, for the well-being of someone else, they're playing in the right key. And it's inspiring because they're in tune with the song, and I know it. To relate to an infinite, enormous, invisible God, that's hard to get my mind around. But love and truth and grace and mercy and justice and compassion, you know, the way Jesus lived, I can see that. I can understand that. I can relate to that. I can play that song. I happen to notice there's a guitar here. I hope that you know God in this way, in a song that is in every moment, it is in every space that you are, And it is like an invitation. As one theologian put it, wherever you go, whatever you do, I will be right here waiting for you. Whatever it takes, how my heart breaks, I will be right here waiting for you.